The good news is that it is easier right now to self-publish than it has ever been. The bad news is that most of what gets self-published, in my opinion, my professional opinion, is substandard. I have coached hundreds of authors and I see 5 mistakes that get made again and again and again. And those 5 mistakes keep people from buying those books, they keep people from reading the books that they bought them, and they keep those books from making a difference. In my experience, people write. You probably write because you want your books to get sold and you want your books to make a difference. These 5 mistakes will keep those things from happening. The first mistake that I see many self-published authors make is that they do not plan for print. In other words, they want to go straight to an ebook because it's easier, it's faster, and that's true. It is easier, it is faster, but not by much, because there's a thing called print on demand. Amazon does print on demand if you want to work with Amazon, and they are the 800-pound gorilla in the self-published, actually, in all the literary world. They are the 800-pound gorilla. They are, you know, there's Ingram Spark, there's different ways to publish. There is Barnes & Noble, you can publish through them. There is Lulu. There's a lot of ways to publish. Amazon is the biggest. They do print on demand, which means you put your book with Amazon and you can have it as an Amazon Kindle exclusively. You can also have it going to a Barnes & Noble, Nook, and other places. But you can opt to have that book in print when people want to buy it. So in other words, you don't have to have 1,000 copies of what you thought was going to be a bestseller, or 10,000 copies of what you thought was going to be a bestseller sitting in your garage for the next 7 years. You don't have any stock, or you might have some, so you can sell them to people individually or give them away as gifts, which is also, by the way, fun. But print on demand is awesome. Print on demand is great, and Amazon will do that. You will make less profit per book, but in my opinion, it's worth it to not have all that stock sitting around and you're worried about getting the books to Amazon or to Barnes & Noble or to whoever, you know, your local bookstore, wherever you want to have it sold. So that's the first thing. And what people don't realize is that there are more books read in print, like a physical print book, than there are ebooks. And everyone predicted back in 2008, 2010, ebooks are going to just take off, and ebooks were going up and up, and they plateaued, and they never quite caught print books. In my opinion, they never will. They never will. Maybe that'll change, but for the last 10 years, that juxtaposition, ebooks and print books have always been on top, and they always will be. So if you're a self-published author and you want to have your book read, if you want your book to make a difference, I humbly suggest have it available in print. It can be a print-on-demand book. The second mistake I see a lot of self-published authors making is not working with a competent editor, and the emphasis is on the word competent. Not all editors are competent. The ones I've had the privilege to work with are. I've had awesome success with the editors I have worked with, and I have worked as an editor for a publishing house, and I have helped big time, and I mean like million copy selling authors, big time authors, you know, make their book better. That's what an editor does. He's going to make, or she's going to make your book better. And yes, I could edit my own books, and I do, before I send it to the editor, and the editor that I work with always takes it to the next level because they see your work more objectively than you can possibly do. And they might have a lot more skill. Hopefully they do. I try to find an editor who has more literary skill than me and has insight into what I could add to the plot or whatever it is. I have never regretted working with an editor. Now, there is a wide range of what you can spend on an editor, and I've literally seen editors offer services for as low as a few $100s and many thousands. I've had editors offer to work with me for $9,500 for a book of 92,000 words. For me, that sounds like a lot. The editor that I work with goes for about $2,500 for the whole book, and he worked with Penguin Press for many years and is an excellent editor. So, you know, what I think is sometimes people's prices get out of skew. What happens is that people think like, oh, well, okay, Dada just said $2,500 for a really good editor. And yes, you can find editors for a lot less than that are really competent, that are really good. Like I said, the editor I work with, I think, is one of the very best. You know, so Dada just said $2,500. I can't afford that. Look at it this way. So for with Different, I spent about, I would say about 4,000 and some hours, maybe 4,500 hours working on that book. Right? It took me a couple years to write. I'm very happy with the result. That's a lot of time. So if I value my time, let's just say I value my time at $10 an hour, which I don't. I value my time more than that. That's still $45,000 worth of time I put into that book. So am I going to hold back and not spend $2,500 on an editor? That's just a small fraction of the investment I already have in that book. So that's my suggestion, is don't try to scrimp and save a few dollars on not getting an editor to help you, because that editor will make your book better. And when people read a book of yours and they love it, they're going to buy more books of yours. And this is true for traditional indie publishing, self-publishing. It's true across the board. And I've seen people write really sloppy books and they don't really care, and that's fine. If you're one of those people, bless you. I'm just not one of them. The other part of this is, part of the editing process is having a beta reader, or actually multiple beta readers. I have found beta readers to be extremely valuable in getting my book to be the best it possibly can be. Beta readers have frequently pointed out to me things that I didn't see, and when I think about it, what they told me, I realize, yeah, you know what, that makes a lot of sense. So beta readers are important, and they're part of the editorial process. So I want to consider it. Part of that same mistake is ignoring or not using beta readers, or not picking the best beta reader you can. Because if you ask your husband or your wife or your mom or your dad or somebody in your family to be your beta reader, you know, I'm blessed because my beta reader is one of my beta readers. I actually go to quite a few beta readers. One of my beta readers is my wife, and she will tell me the truth, as painful as it might be sometimes. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. And I always give beta readers specific requests to tell me what you had to reread. Tell me what didn't make sense immediately. Tell me what gave you a huh moment. I want to know about those huh moments, and mostly take them out unless they are intentional. So that's the editorial process, and skipping any of that is a huge mistake, and I've seen people make it time and time again. Mistake number 3 that many self-published authors make is they don't get a proofreader. So we were just talking about the editorial process. You got an editor, you spent the money on the editor, and you had beta readers give you feedback, you feel really good about your book, and you know grammar, you know how to spell, you know what works, how a paragraph is structured. Who needs a proofreader? And the editor saw it already. Well, here's the thing. You need a proofreader. The good news about a proofreader is they are far less expensive than an editor. And this is really important to know. Like, for example, on a proofreader, I might spend $200, $250 on a good proofreader, and I will go more than one round. You don't need to do that. I tend to be a little bit of a perfectionist, so I will send it to a proofreader. They'll send suggested changes, just like with an editor, right? They'll send suggested changes. You decide what goes in your book or what doesn't, what comes out of it, and so on. When I get the proofreader's suggestions back, I integrate them if I agree. There are times when I don't agree with a grammar rule or something, but I'm going to consider everything the proofreader or editor says. When I get them back, I integrate them. I go over the book again. I might make some more changes, and then depending how many changes I made, how significant those changes are, I will send it back to the proofreader or go to another proofreader so they're seeing it with fresh eyes. And that's me. That's me. That's what I do. So that could cost me $300 for both proofreaders. It depends on who I'm working with. It might be $400. It is absolutely worth it. It is a step that many self-published authors skip. If you go to a traditional publisher, if Random House publishes your book, they will have 3, 4, 5 layers of editing and proofreading, and that's why you tend to find far less errors in a traditionally published book than a self-published book. So as a self-published author, my humble suggestion is to write those costs in. Plan that I'm going to spend, $2,500 or $2,000 or $1,500 or whatever it is for a really good editor. I'm going to spend a couple of $100, maybe $200, $300 for a proofreader. So this is something that should not be skipped, in my opinion. And like I said before, I was an editor. I was working as a professional editor for a publishing house, and I have a good eye for spotting things that are wrong with writing, I like to think. And I go over my material many times. I print it out. I look at it. I go over it on screen. I put it on my Kindle reader. I play it aloud. I go over it and over and over it, and I always miss things. I always have things that come back from the proofreader that I missed and that frequently the editor also missed. So I believe it's an important step that should not be skipped. The fourth mistake that I see self-published authors making frequently is not getting good design. Not getting good design on the cover, not getting good design on the interior. And yes, those are probably things, or they might be things, that you could do yourself, or your nephew Jasper is learning graphic design, and he's going to do your cover for you. And I've seen a lot of amateur covers and they just don't work. And yeah, you can save a few $100s by getting that done by somebody that may not be as good as a top-notch professional. I will always go to one of the best cover designers I can find. So with different, so I had this cover was designed by one of the best cover designers in the United Kingdom. The same cover designer that the big publishers go to there. Happened to be in the United Kingdom. It could have been in the United States, could have been in Australia, could have been in Cambodia, anywhere. I don't care where they're from, but I care that they do good work. And that cover cost me, I want to say, around $550, something like that, or maybe it was 550 pounds. So it would have been around 700. But so it was a lot of money. And I've had experience in graphic design. I could design my own cover. I designed a few covers. They were like, yeah, they're okay. I absolutely believe it's important, especially, as I was saying before, the statistics around print books versus EPUB books, and the thing is, people are going to look at your EPUB cover too. It's not like the cover doesn't matter for an EPUB book, for a Kindle, or a Barnes & Noble Nook or whatever. They matter. Those covers matter, and the print covers will matter even a little more. And again, so they've bought your book. You're going to want them to buy another book, hopefully. You may not. You may be a one-book wonder, and it might be a wonderful book. That's what I mean by that. That sounded a little derogatory. You might be a one-book wonder, and you only want to write one book. But if people really get a good feeling for your book, and the cover has to do with the feeling they have around your book, I believe cover design is very important, and it's probably the most flagrant mistake of all these that I see with self-published authors is they have a poorly designed cover, and a poorly designed interior, and it's just not the same experience. So I have professional experience with layout design. I use Adobe InDesign. I have a professional copy. It's very high learning curve, but it's what all the book professionals, well, let me qualify that. It's what most of the book professionals, layout, interior designers, professionals use. And I could have done this myself. I know how these programs work. There's the focus. So I still hired an interior designer to get my interior perfect, and I do not regret that at all. And you know, that was another $400 for me. So it was $700 for the cover design, another $400. It's $1,100 for the design. And again, you know, looking at my time, my investment, again, if it's $45,000, if I'm estimating my time at $10 an hour, which is low, I would estimate my time worth more than that. $45,000 investment, yeah, I'm going to spend that extra money to do a really good design because I want people to feel good about the book. And yeah, if the book itself is awesome, the writing is awesome, that's fine. That's great. You know, it's going to help a lot. It's going to be, you know, almost everything, but it's not everything. How the book presents itself. You know, if the cover looks good, if the back cover looks good, all these things. So this was all helped by a designer with me. Like, you know, and I had ideas about how I wanted to be, but you know, my cover designer really helped me with this, with every part of it. With every part of it. So I think it's important, and that's my observation, is that's one of the biggest mistakes that people make. The fifth mistake is similar to that fourth mistake with the design, and that's not using good materials. So people will print their book on cheaper paper. They will print their book with a budget publisher. I don't believe that's a good idea. Again, you look at your investment. Look at how much time you put into making your book the best it can possibly be, and then you go and print it on really cheap paper, and the cover is cheap material. And I remember I showed one of the books that we self-published to a traditional publisher. He was at it's one conference I was at, and I handed him the book, and he goes, "Oh, this is really good." He said, the first thing he said was, "This does not look self-published." I mean, I just told him that it was self-published, and he knew. And he said, "Yeah, this does not look self-published." It had a quality cover on it. The design was good. The paper was good. The feel was good. And again, you know, it's going to cost you a little more. I believe it's worth it, especially if you do print on demand. If you do, and this is, by the way, obviously not pertaining to ebook. The fourth mistake does pertain to ebook, how it's designed, how it's laid out, but the fifth point does not. This is print only. How it looks, how it feels has a lot to do with the quality of the paper, the quality of the printing, the quality of the cover, all those things, they matter. So there you have it. Those are the 5 mistakes, and look at those and see which ones you don't want to make. Hopefully you don't want to make any of them. This is what I do, by the way, if you don't know that about me already. My wife and I run Deep Pacific Press, and we, like I said before, coach hundreds of authors through the process, and we can help you with this. This is something that we can do for you, getting the right editor, finding the right designers, all those things, from getting you the ISBN number and your layout, everything. Everything. We're happy to do it. If you are at all interested, email me, support@duttagroover.com, and I will get back to you. Thank you very much for listening, for being with me today. This has been Dutta Groover with The Inspired Writer.